Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello. We are with you today. I have Greg, the guru.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, the financial guru with us today, because that's what we're talking about. We are at the beginning of another year, and I've entitled this Financial Planning for the New Year, and we're updating an article. So make sure that you get the link to that article. It's in the podcast notes. So you'll get some of the new information in there, as well as the video, and the podcast will be there. And make sure that you also get to the link of Hero Mountain Summit. The course, I only opened this up for individuals twice a year, and it's starting February 5th. And make sure you check that out. You can start it free. You can kind of preview it. It's 20 years, 20 years, yes, 20 weeks. You're already laughing at me. 20 weeks of just short videos, short MP3s. You can download everything. Lots of downloaded material. It helps you stay accountable.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go through it, they've partnered with you into getting off to a good start to the next year. It's a great start, for next year. So there's a lot of. It's so funny because I am, adjusting this on our video right now, and my mouse quit working. So you're going to see me reach up here now and then on the podcast. But anyway, we're going to dive into this, but make sure you check that out too, heromountainsummit.com, because it's a partnership there with you for those 20 weeks to really move you ahead. Yeah. It's exactly what I'm great at doing, is to help you move ahead and in life. And so it's a great course, wonderful course. There's really nothing out there like this. Personal and professional development. This is when I open it up for individuals. It's also good for teams. So those can be individually scheduled. So let's kind of dive into this financial planning for the new year, because we have faced a lot of costs that's gone up, and I have a couple of things to add here too. But I really want Greg to really highlight a couple maybe of the changes or things to think about in the new year. If you've followed us at all, he's had a huge financial background as an RIA and advisor and everything else, and a head for numbers. So let's just why don't you introduce maybe some of the main things to think about, and then we're going to cover some of the main things some of them that we covered in the article, but also a couple new things. Yeah. So part of my financial career was as a certified financial planner, and typically what we dealt with was personal family budgets. And as you think about this new year, probably a couple of things have happened. One, you've noticed that it costs a lot more to do the things that you used to do, whether going out or going to the grocery store or filling up your tank with gas or paying your medical insurance. All of those things cost significantly more than they did. The second thing is that hopefully your income's gone up a little bit. So now is a good time to just go through your budget. And the best way to do that is go back over your spending for the last 90 days. You pretty much everything you're going to buy over the course of a year, you've done in the last 90 days, including your property taxes, your property insurance, all of those things get added in. Now, the way to do this is just go back over your checkbook and literally write down every expense and stick it in a category. And then go back over your credit cards and do the same thing. What were the expenses and your debit cards? What were your expenses, and stick them in a category. And there are lots of personal budget sheets online if you need idea of standard categories. And if you do that, you'll find out kind of what your budget is. And people used to call me up and wanting to put together a budget. And this is the first thing I tell them to do, because what you're currently spending is what your current budget is, whether you designed it or not. That's how you're living. And so once you figure that out, the next thing to do is figure out how much is your debt growing, if it's growing. And the debt is merely you spending more than you're bringing in. And so if you've added $1,200 in debt over the last year, then what you did was you spent $100 a month more than you brought in for a whole year. That's all it is. So your budget literally is not what you're making, it's what you're making plus $100 a month. And this is where we get control. So what you would do is go, did my debt go up? If so, by how much a month? And that tells you how much you need to cut per month. And that will get you to even. And the second question becomes, what do I do with my credit card debt? Well, your credit card debt then becomes your quote unquote savings plan. Because, let's say we decide that this year, instead of building it 100 a month, we're going to bring it down 100 a month. So now you got to go back to that budget you created, find out your spending, and figure out a way to cut $200 a month out of what you're spending. Now, some of that might get offset by increases in your take-home pay. Possible. But that's kind of where you start. Figure out how much you're spending, because that's your actual budget. Figure out the categories, and then decide where am I going to cut, $200 a month.
Great. And in fact, included in this too, in the article, is a link to free downloads, to free goals downloads. And I put in there a default budget. So that is one of the things I talked about in my first book. Stuck is not a 4-letter word. And there's a default budget. And that's what you're going to track. And you do this every year for us.
Right.
And I do this for my business. So it is every single year, all of the itemizations, and we can see exactly where that money goes. And it's different now than when we were raising kids. We spend the money in different areas. Although I think
we haven't bought diapers. I don't know how long.
Yeah, I have a few put aside when we were for.
I haven't had to pay for trumpet lessons.
No, isn't that nice? So those are good, or saxophone lessons. Yeah, we have those too. So those are things that are changing. I don't know if our food budget has gone down at all. It's gone way up, actually, just because of inflation and everything else. So, but it's a good thing to look at. And you really mentioned, keeping track of that. I do this with my business, and I just went through the exact same thing. Because I tell people you can be subscription poor as with your business. And, so many things now are with SaaS, which is subscription as a service. So you have to, soon they get you on these free trials, and then they have a monthly fee. Well, I know people that have been on those monthly fees and that have gotten hooked into some of this. Oh yeah, but someday I'm going to start a newsletter. Oh no, someday I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that particular app, but I got a good deal on it. I'm going to write my online courses someday, but I got a good deal on it. So I didn't want to pass that up. And I still want that money off. It's costing you every year. No, it's better. Cancel. And I did the same thing this year with a couple of my subscriptions that I found better deals on, lifetime deals that are not subscription as a service. And I'm looking more and more for those. I'll put a link to that. I'll tell you about that actually a little bit later in our conversation about how I found some of those things. But that is exactly what I'm looking for now, because we can just be subscription poor.
Yeah.
So
some of the places to look to cut would be the first place that Debbie brought up was legacy spending. And those are just things that you've been spending, every month for a couple of years now, and it's become so habitual that you've forgotten about it. So legacy spending typically is subscriptions, insurance. you get used to paying, XYZ insurance. Yeah, anymore, you probably don't know your agent, but it's just something that's done. And what I tell everybody I advise is don't date your insurance company, meaning every year, or at least every 3 years, about 60 months before your annuals due, get 3 bids on your current coverage. And you can do it pretty much all online now. So if you would shop your house, your fire insurance, your auto insurance, earthquake insurance, if you've got it, health insurance, you might find $200 or $300 a month there. Now, as you get older, you don't want to cheat on health insurance. We are, as humans, depreciating assets. So
that's kind of sad, isn't it?
But the reality is if you ask me, what am I doing this month? 3 of the things are doctor's appointments. Yeah. And we just break. Anyway, don't cheat yourself on insurance. The difference between a C-level insurance and a B-level insurance is not that much. And what you're essentially doing with insurance is shifting life risk over to an insurance company, and then they're creating a pool of people who have the same life risk, and that pool comes together to pay off insurance claims. So shift risk over to insurance companies, just don't overpay for it. And then if you will shop it at least every 3 years, you won't overpay for it, and you'll be more familiar with what your coverage is too. It's easy to pay too much on car insurance, so just heads up there. Health insurance, if you're young, go with the higher deductible plan. If you're approaching retirement or in retirement, reduce your deductible plan. Especially if you're on Medicare, and Medicare is picking up most of it, I'd recommend buying the most expensive Medicare supplement plan you can, so that you have the option of any doctor anytime you need it. And so there's some things to scrimp on, like how many times you go out for coffee. Insurance is not one of them. So, but out of one spine of my mouth, don't cheat yourself. On the other side, if you'll shop, you'll find I bet $200 or $300 a month in savings between health insurance, car insurance, property insurance, earthquake insurance, and maybe even life insurance. So,
wow! If you guys are listening to this, you have just hit the gold mine right here of just being able to evaluate that, because it really does. You lay it out. You just look at it. And actually, one of the little things that happened with us was a change in our health insurance. And some of the additional things by going with the new company that we went with are amazing. And
it's cheaper, and we got way more coverage.
Way more coverage. And it was surprising because we were kind of panicked about it, but it was like, oh my goodness, that was amazing what happened there. Right. So yeah, all of that, I think it's just really, really great advice. And this is why it's important. You really need to do this at the end of the year. Now, this is coming out at the beginning of the year, but especially relevant for those of you who have not done it, which I would probably guarantee a lot of you have not. So to evaluate everything, and I recently went through all of this because I was concerned about cash flow. And when you're running a small business, that can just suck you dry. And a lot of stuff, what I'm doing right now, I have so much content, I'm spending money on marketing. I'm finding where those dollars are going, what is working. And then I cut the places that are not working at all. Why am I going to throw money through that? And it's just,
right.
You don't want to throw more money at it and think it's going to work any different. It won't. So you just need to find the ways that are and kind of sneak in there maybe a little bit different way. So that's exactly what I've been doing and evaluating. But you got to look at the data, you got to look at the numbers, and to see really what your impact is. And that's really helped me a lot in doing that. And I'm not really a detail person, but I've had to be detail person in some areas. And it's, makes me take a step back and do that. And then it's really fun to see, what happens. So it's some great.
A couple other places to save. I was surprised when I was consulting how many people under 35 were spending north of $100 a month merely on coffee. And all of that cash is after tax cash. So you had to earn maybe $130 to spend $100. I don't know about you, but going to restaurants has become noticeably more expensive.
Yes.
And, fortunately, we're at a place where we can afford it, but I still get annoyed by it. And if you're struggling to find, places to save $100, $200 a month, I really would push a pause button on that. I mean, going out is fun. But until, the economy can kind of settle down and figure out where its real values are, we've just cut back. I've started buying bacon and cooking it at home. It's just my own little protest. The other thing is you don't have to look around much to figure out that the country's obese. And as many gyms as there are, if we're obese, it must be because of one, what we're eating. So check that. But two, what we're drinking. And you can save a little bit on food costs. You can save a lot on cutting out alcohol.
Wow.
And that's not meant to be a commentary on your lifestyle. It's just if you'll go through your budget and figure out how much you spent on various alcoholic beverages and total up for a year, you'll probably need life support. So your heart will be racing. So easy way to cut back on spending would be reduce that, and it'd be good for your health.
Actually, I have a good way of approaching that, because I just go, okay, what's the better calories for me? I'm kind of a lightweight. I love my little glass of wine, but I'm thinking, okay, I could probably have dark chocolate instead of that next glass of wine or whatever. So that's kind of the way I kind of look at this whole thing. And it's a trade-off.
Yeah, but for some people, it's a cultural thing. It's a family thing.
Exactly.
When your extended family gets together, it's just part of like what you do.
Yeah.
But seriously, count up how much you spent.
Right.
And go, was that worth it? Can I still afford it?
Yeah.
So regardless of what Deb says about dark chocolate.
But also there are places, if you do have events and all of that, you can find, I found some great deals, like at Costco, at some of their wines that you have. I mean, you're more the wine connoisseur of that area, but there's places that you don't have to spend a whole lot as well with a good bottle of wine. So, just figure out what the budget with all of that is. That was great advice. So, well, let's a couple places too, when I'm talking about finding software, and this is for some of my nerdy friends that are listening, that I've started checking some of these lifetime deals and for some of the back end software of my business, because I do a lot online. And I've checked out AppSumo. And if you've not been on AppSumo, it's a good place to check out. It's always look at reviews, always look at the number of years an app has been out, because they're not all new apps that are put on at different times of the year. I happened to get the couple that I signed on to over Black Friday, or over the Thanksgiving weekend. And I found them, and it's like I grabbed them, and they were great. I'm still looking for a couple things. I've stopped some of my other subscriptions, and I'm looking for a couple things, but when they pop up, I will be ready. So I'm kind of regularly checking places like that you can find these lifetime deals. And it's a little bit of work on the back end to get those programs going. It's not all the same. There's little glitches, but we've been through that. A lot of us have been through that.
But there's going to be that work at the front end, no matter what software you put into place. So you might as well pay as little as possible for it.
Yeah. And it's paying off. I like it so well. And I'm able to, now I'm just starting to educate some of my VAs on it. And it's just, but I needed to get on it. And it's just, you have to be willing to do the work. I'm willing to do the work. So, but it'll be a little frustrating sometimes. But I've been on so many programs that are great programs that I've been extremely frustrated at, but there's usually always an answer. You find it, find somewhere to sort it in. Music software, oh my goodness, with Finale, with Digital Performer, all of those. You go through, some plugs not working or some sort of things that you have to press in there's a little something that's wrong, but they're great tools. You don't give up. There's always usually an answer. So what are anything else that we want to you've covered some of the things and maybe how we can cut.
I think one other thing to think about is a lot of the press I see talks about the difference between needs and wants. And I think it's a little more nuanced than that. So I want you to think about your own business or your own personal finances this way. There are needs. We need grocery, we need insurance, we need housing. There's wants. You want to exercise, you want to have a little bit of recreation. And then there's luxuries. I like this luxury category. And by luxury, I don't mean the Four Seasons at Banff. I mean the difference between maybe a Six Flags vacation somewhere in Missouri versus Disney World. If you're used to taking your family of 5 to Orlando, spending $2,000 or $3,000, perhaps more, for 4 or 5 days
at least.
Think about camping in the Adirondacks, and you still get the 4 or 5 days with your family, and you keep $2,000 in your pocket, which is roughly $150 a month. That's a big deal. Do you still have the need for vacation? Yes. It's just, do you have the need for a luxury vacation? Maybe not this year. These inflationary times are just times to be reasonable with yourself and your family, and make the distinction. I don't like cutting back from wants. Certainly for the early part of our marriage, we had to, I had to sharpen the pencil really sharp and figure out, where the next, rent income was going to come from. But, you quickly grow out of that and you get to the place where you can spend a little money on once. I just would do the mental exercise. Is this a want or is this a luxury? And, just for a period of time, if you find things tight, cut back on the luxuries, and you can have just as much fun, and you're staying within budget, and that you won't be going into debt. So the 3 categories were needs, wants, and luxury. Okay.
I think that as you were talking about that, I really just thought of mindset, and it's just a mindset that we need to take on, and also for a family, for a couple. You really need to communicate together. If you can't communicate about some of these things, or somebody gets angry and they can't just, oh no, we've got to do that. Oh no, that's a tough thing. You need to be able to at least open up that communication, say, I need to be honest. Let's look at everything realistically, where we are realistically at, and what next year is going to look like. And so there's just some communicate. That's a whole other conversation.
Well, and it reminds me, though, when I was working with couples, we were having disagreements about this, and somebody was adamant that we needed to spend a certain amount of money. And the other person was saying, well, we got to be honest. Another word that I like to use is, instead of honest, it's accurate.
Mm.
As couples, as management teams, I think the greatest value is to accurately assess where you are and where you're going and how fast are you getting there. If you're just accurate, it takes some of the emotion out. And it allows you to deal with things. Some people, if they don't treat themselves to luxury items, they somehow feel bad about themselves. And then if their spouse is the one who says, we can't afford to spend it this year, then they feel bad about the spouse.
Oh,
and that is tragic.
Yeah.
And I think if we all just learn to deal accurately, would it be fair to say that if you've grown your personal debt by $6,000 over the last year, so $500 a month, that you're not living accurately? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think you're living with a budget, but your credit card debt grew by $6,000 last year, you're not accurate. You're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
You're maybe not quite delusional, but you're fooling yourself, and it's just not fair. You're not being accurate. And the remedy isn't to get mad at somebody. The remedy is to go, okay, here's where we're at. Here's what we have, what we don't have, and then develop a plan. How do we get there? And I've already given you some ideas: alcohol, food, insurance.
Yeah.
Those are easy ways. The other thing is, take care of your used car. Just keep driving your used car. Don't get a new lease or a new car payment. Most of the people I've ever known got into debt because they had too much house, too much car, and too many restaurants. If you just minimize those, you can living in America, you can easily stay within your budget.
Yeah.
It's just when you stop living accurately and you think that you got to have a house above your means, cars above your means, and eating out way above your means, that end up putting you in trouble.
Yeah. Wow. Great advice. And I loved that, living accurately. I mean, that's another jewel that came out of today. That could help a lot of communication ahead. And so that's a wonderful one, because as you can see, Greg's had a lot of experience in this area. He's worked with a lot of couples. He's worked with a lot of individuals in a lot of different areas of life. So it's just wise in how to approach those things. And I tend to be quicker. I'm just kind of quick. I want to put it quick. I want to fix things. That's just my personality. I want to just put a Band-Aid on it right away. So that's why you work well together as a team. So anyway, was there any other things that we wanted to cover on this? I think we've covered before in the article is appreciating assets, depreciating assets, and with the cars and everything else and how those happen. And
the point on that, and this is going to make total sense to you.
Yeah.
Your car loses value the moment you drive it off the lot, right? Your house in general goes up in value. So if you had to borrow money for a house or a car, which one makes more sense to borrow money for? The one that goes up in value or the one that goes down in value? And hopefully you get that if you borrow money to buy things that go up in value, it can be reasonable. If you're constantly buying things that go down in value or are just 100% consumed, that's a poor use of debt.
I was just remembering your comment about that we are depreciating.
We're depreciating assets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although you're very valuable to me.
Thank you.
So, wow.
Hopefully at this stage, we're not borrowing money to maintain ourselves.
No. So extremely valuable. Hopefully all of you listeners have gotten some real nuggets and jewels out of this, of just being able to apply.
Oh, can I throw one more thing? Just a note of encouragement is, now I'm going to guess most of you, if you looked back at how much you brought in 5 or 6 years ago at total yearly net income, the money you could spend, not the stuff that got taxed 5 or 6 years ago, and you compared it to today, and you were honest, you would say to yourself, 6 years ago, there's no way I thought I'd be making this kind of money.
Yeah.
So if you're at a place where you're depressed because you're going to have to cut on your monthly expenses, if you do it for 5 years, you're again going to be making way more money than you can dream of today. 5 years from now, you're going to be better off. And if you discipline yourself to not spend as much, and to spend less than you're earning, by the time you're 5 years down the road, you are going to have excess income for the first time in your life. It will be an exciting moment, and you'll probably want to send me a present.
I'll make sure you have his contact information. Well, thank you all for joining us again. Check out HeroMountainSummit.com if you really want that partnership moving ahead in your life. We cover everything. We even cover finance. We cover budgets. We cover your habits. Oh, so many things. We put you on a reading program, but it's a lot of stuff on mindset too. That's a big deal. So anyway. Hopefully you'll join us. And of course, we have plenty of books and everything else, but just make sure you sign up for our newsletter as well. goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. You can get all our weekly articles and our podcast. We don't send spam. We just send you our little updates. You'll hear from us usually just twice a week with our article that comes out and the podcast that comes out. So that's it, right to your inbox. So you don't have to look everywhere on social media for us. So
yeah, the most valuable newsletter and podcast you get all week.
So. I think so. And I just changed my format, which I love. So I think there's a lot of graphics. I put a lot of music in there too. So you can kind of keep up with all of that. And I see a lot of people click on those. They like the music. So anyway, but that's for you anytime. So thanks again for joining us. And we've really enjoyed being with you today. It's always fun for me to have Greg with me, especially for subjects like this, because you can hear how experienced and just some of the wisdom there. So it's very, very helpful. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.